Hello, this is Steven Hour back with another Batman 66 episode review. Today's episode we'll be doing a death worse than fate. So let's get into it. The episode quickly gives us a recap of what's happened in the previous episode. And basically, a brief recap is that there is a person robbing banks that Batman has been called in to solve. And it turns out the people that were robbing the bank is Zelda the Great, who's been using this money to give to a crooked criminal named Eva Dilector to come up with magic acts. And after they plan to store that the money that they've robbed from the bank is fake, they decide they need to give money elsewhere. Batman and Robin originally had a plan to apprehend Zelda, but it has backfired when instead Zelda decided to kidnap Aunt Harriet and pretty much, ransom her off. And that's the quick recap. Episode then kicks off with Commissioner Gordon, Chief O'Hara, trying to find Batman. Robin is there, and then suddenly Bruce Wayne comes in, because that's the next person they need. They then quickly go on the air to the criminals, pleading for Aunt Harriet's safety, and be willing to give her whatever she wants if they promise not to harm her. Robin then reveals that the money in the newspaper of the money being fake was a ruse. The story is completely false and was meant to be a trap to apprehend her. Bruce then concurs that what Robin is telling is true, as there's no way he would do that, as it will be against his position, and basically just, as a billionaire, whatever he is. Believing, with her not being a total villainous criminal, and is basically a good person deep down, she agrees to let her go, and promise that she will not be harmed. She fulfills her agreement and lets Aunt Harriet go. As soon as that happened, with the money revealed to being actually real, Eva Dilector then reveals about the whole Doom Trap, that he can't figure out how to get out, but Batman and Robin will, and plans to lure them to the hideout, which is behind a bookshop, and plans to have them be put in the trap, and then have them figure a way out. But there's a problem. If they do get out, and that's if, and she goes to use this trap, escape trap, for her show, they can then figure out her connection to this whole thing, because believe it or not, they don't know that she's involved yet. But Abel has a plan. He's made a criminal deal with two gangsters of the Syndicate to basically, as soon as Batman and Robin escape the Doom Trap, plans to kill them. In his words, dead men tell no tales. Zelda, pretty much knowing that this plan was going to happen, had already sent a clue to their location, but however has reservations against murder, as this was not what she signed up for. In her words, she's nothing more than she's a simple bank robber. She's not a cold-blooded killer. After that, we then cut back to Wayne Manor, where Alfred takes Aunt Harriet to lay down after this exhausting adventure, and honestly, if anyone was ever been through this kind of position, I would agree so. We then find a clue on Aunt Harriet's person leading to the bookshop. Batman and Robin then drive and break in. They'll drive to the bookshop and essentially go there to investigate. Whilst on their way, they then find out who's responsible for this, Zelda the Great. To find this out because whilst on the airwaves, Zelda said that Aunt Harriet was in a straitjacket, tied up and over top of a vat of boiling hot oil, with fire around it, basically. They then reveal that Zelda did this trick years ago, at a party. Realizing that that Zelda might be the person responsible, they then find out who's responsible. They quickly get to the bookstore and break in. They then get lured into the Doom Trap, where they are locked in. And with the gate being pretty much electrified that they can't remove, and the poisonous gas coming in, and the glass is basically indestructible, Batman then finds a way out. By, I guess you could say, using a reverse pulverizing device to help the gate explode, and therefore making the door open, and then they jump out. Now here's where I want to stop a bit. Just before this happened, the gangsters are hiding in mummy costumes, and this whole thing is being observed by Elector and Zelda by watching through telescopes viewing the whole scene happening. But Zelda, being not a full-hardened criminal, but a very sympathetic one, can't stand to Batman be murdered in cold blood like this, and essentially warns Batman and Robin to duck as they are criminals inside those mummies. They then duck, and the machine guns and as a result, the gangsters crossfire each other, essentially killing them both whilst inside the mummies. We don't see the dead bodies, but it's heavily revealed that they are dead, especially when Batman tells Robin to make a call to the morgue. This is again another case. This is now, I think, in the show's run, let's see, 4 people died. There was Molly, there was the butler, and then the 2 gangsters. Abel tries to make an escape, but Batman batarangs him on the head. As he's about to get outside the door, and Zelda surrenders. We then end the episode with Bruce Wayne visiting Zelda in prison and offering, as soon as she served her time, that she would go to perform magic tricks at a children's hospital inside of a fresh new life. Zelda is very grateful and does a magic trick on Bruce by revealing a flower, which he then puts in his suit jacket, and leaves. The episode then ends with saying the next week the Riddler will make his return. And we can't wait to review that episode when we get there. But first, let's get to the usual. The cast of characters pretty much remain the same. And here, with pretty much, Burt Ward still playing, Robin and Dick Grayson the way he does, with Chief O'Hara and Commissioner Gordon still being them, and Harriet, how she, pretty much remain the same. However, we do get some character at least some character traits from Alfred and Harriet. Anne Harry has been through a trying experience, and we're glad that she came through, and the fact that the character's been through something like this, and it's probably not going to be the last time she'll ever be involved in a criminal caper. Of course, Alfred here, we get a bit of character development, and he's feel guilty as he should have been there for, when this whole thing happened. He feels a tad bit guilty, he should have been there, and if he thought if he had been there, maybe Anne Harry would have not been like this. But Bruce assures her it's not his fault. Here we also get an interesting trait from Bruce Wayne here. Something we noticed from again, Batman is willing to give criminals a chance to reform, but you mostly find it's really towards the female. Again, the show pretty much indicates that females can be led down a criminal life by bad men, although some female villains we find in the show openly enjoy the criminal lifestyle, so this theory on hypocrisy is a bit wrong here. But I do like the fact that he's willing to give Zelda a chance to reform and basically, start a fresh new life. Again, this is something I want more modern Batman to do. Actually give villains a chance to reform. Don't just bump them and send them back to prison. That recycle will probably just enforce criminals to come back to Gotham and just cause chaos and havoc. Try and give a chance to actually reform the criminals. And this was something really interesting here. Also, the idea of him spending majority of the episode as Bruce Wayne rather than Batman is something different as well, and I highly appreciate it. Zelda here, for me, was a really great villain, and unlike villains created for the show, I'm kind of glad that she only had 1 episode. Honestly, there's no way after the ending that she had, you could have brought her back to the criminal lifestyle. It just, for me, wouldn't work. Anne Baxter here is fabulous in the role. I love the orange clothing she wears and the magic tricks. And that even though she is a criminal, she is a decent-hearted person deep down. She's not a monster. She's not a full-blooded criminal. She's a bank robber. She's a thief. She's not a murderer. Although, to be fair, she was willing to literally harm Anne Harriet, but I like to think that she would have not properly gone through with that. Again, it's not in her wheelhouse. And I like how her character had that nice ending. She had a redemption when she couldn't see Batman and Robin get killed. Again, she has standards, and she wants to be a magician. And she's offered this chance of redemption. She's offered, a chance to relive a normal life, regardless in Gotham. And I just like this is how it's done. The same cannot be said for Eva Dilector. Jack here is just fantastic in the role. He's a slimy, crooked businessman or criminal genius, and was willing to make a deal with the mob in order to achieve his ends. So that I found to be pretty interesting. The cost and the clothing, just for me, it's silly but surprisingly normal. The accent is there, and again, I wouldn't have not mind Eva Dilector coming back, probably teaming up. I would have imagined him teaming up with the Joker because of the Joker's playful thing of tricks. I could have easily imagined he would have brought Abel back to be his like co-partner. I would have liked Abel to come back at least one more time. Abel does not have the ability to be around as a main villain. Mostly, he's a side villain, and I don't think he ever had a huge presence enough to get any top billing. But he's certainly fun, and I'm really happy about how the character is. And again, I would have loved him back, but it didn't happen. A Death Worse Than Fate is a fitting ending to this two-parter. Something I want to also point out, this is, in my opinion, the first two-parter that doesn't have any bat fights. Unless you count getting hit on the head with a batarang, which I don't, it doesn't have any bat fights. But here it revolves more on the story, and this was one of the things I liked about the first season. It was willing to take risks with some episodes, and even willing to create some characters that didn't originate from the comics. And I thought that would be a good idea, as not very many comic book characters in the comics would have fit the overall tone and style of the show. Overall, just like with the Mr. Freeze two-parter, I rank this definitely in my top 10. In fact, Zelda the Great and A Death Worse Than Fate is actually my top 10 episodes of all time. I just like how it just revolves around more story, more than fighting. And here, I just like how the story is nicely paced. And we're introduced to a villain that we've never seen before. And I do think Zelda was perfect as a one-shot. But however, this will not be the last time we'll see Anne Baxter. She will later return in Season 3. Now, I said in my top 10, I would have liked if Zelda could have returned. Well, that's true, but now that I think about it, I think she shouldn't have. Her two-parter debut and only appearances of being in that two-parter was perfect and should have not been brought back. Her character should have not been brought back. But when they did bring her back and had her play a different character, a different main villain, I thought it was a great idea to do something different, and I just liked how it just went with her. Honestly, this is a really great two-parter. However, if you are going into this two-parter expecting a bat fight or more of the classic bat centricities, you're not gonna get it. Instead, what you're gonna get is a more story-driven episodes. And basically just more interesting characters that just have you fully invested. And that's what I really like about it, and it really stays close to the world of 66. And there it is, A Fate Worse Than Death, a really great and fantastic episode, two-parter, and one of the first clear examples of you can have a Batman episode without having any action fight scenes, but basically revolve around story. And for 66, I found it to be a pretty damn great episode. Join us next time as we reveal the Riddler's Return episode, as we review the episode A Riddle a Day Keeps the Riddler Away. The Riddler's return after his debut in the season's first two-parts. So, until next time, this has been the Steven Hour, and join us next time for same Steven time, the same Steven channel.